of countries. Well, another bloc that has taken a swing at Trump is the EU. The European Union has agreed to impose tariffs of 25% on a broad range of US products. On the hit list are soybeans from Louisiana, as well as diamonds, agricultural products, and motorcycles. The European Commission says the levies are in response to the, quote, unjustified and damaging import tax imposed by Donald Trump. Well, let's get more on the EU's response with Dave Keating, France 24's correspondent in Brussels. Dave, just bring us up to speed with this announcement from the EU.
Yeah, it's a really important distinction to make here, given the announcement we just had from Washington, is that these retaliatory tariffs are not from against what happened last week to the Liberation Day 20% tariffs. These are a delayed response to the 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium that were launched over a month ago. The timing is a little strange here, that this approval came today on the same day that the 20% tariff went into effect on the EU. But and that could be causing some confusion here. When I've been talking to people here in Brussels the last couple of days, a lot of people have expected what just happened because they saw what happened with Canada and Mexico. They saw that in previous instances the tariffs took effect, markets freaked out, and then Trump rescinded. So I think what just happened with the announcement we just had from Washington was baked in a bit to people's expectations here. But I've talked to a lot of very nervous people over the past half hour who are worried that Trump will not understand the nuance of what was just adopted today. Now, what was adopted was retaliatory tariffs on goods worth about 20 billion euros. That is lower than the original list that the Commission had proposed a month ago that amounted to 26 billion. A lot of products were taken off that list, in particular American bourbon and whiskey, because Trump had threatened to retaliate with a 200% tariff on French and Italian wine. But the goods that are left on this list, you can tell they're targeted toward Republican voting states. So for instance, they highly target soybeans. Those are from Louisiana, which is the home state of the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. We've also got tariffs on things, Americana type things like motorcycles. They'll come in two phases. The first phase will be the smaller amount, 3.9 billion euros worth of goods. That'll come next week on April 15th. The rest of the amount, about 13 billion, will take effect on April 15th. So I don't expect, in the announcement, press release that the Commission put forward today, when the member states agreed to this, they said that these can be rescinded at any time if the U.S. is willing to enter into negotiations. Given that these weren't a response to the 20% tariffs and that those tariffs have only just been lowered to 10%, not gotten rid of entirely, I would not expect the EU to now say, okay, we're going to put these retaliatory tariffs on hold. Interestingly, by the way, one country, I'm told, did vote against this approval today, and that country was, unsurprisingly, Hungary.
Hey, Dave, it's Doug here. Just out of curiosity, anecdotally, do you Kentucky bourbon was taken off that list, you said, right? Do you know anyone in Brussels who drinks Kentucky bourbon? Because I honestly don't know anyone in France who drinks it.
I do not, and that's why I wonder how effective this tariff could have been. Maybe there's a huge market of Kentucky bourbon drinkers out there in Europe that we don't know about, but I've never even seen it here in Europe.
Well, Dave, tell us about whether there's been any reaction from Washington to the EU's latest announcement.
Yeah, I haven't seen any reaction to the announcement, although I imagine it may have come up in that congressional testimony that you were just referring to that's ongoing this afternoon. But so far, I mean, again, it's interesting how Washington is going to view what's just been adopted. Do they see this as a retaliation for the 20% or a retaliation for the steel and aluminium tariffs, which now feel so long ago that people have actually kind of forgotten about them? The thing with those tariffs, I should mention, is they're pretty close to what Trump had already done in his first term. They're more extreme. They're much higher than what he did in his first term, but he had also levied tariffs on EU steel and aluminium imports back then. So I think that was kind of considered par for the course. Again, I haven't heard any major reaction from Washington. It's important to point out that there's a huge difference in terms of the 20% was going to impact, by the Commission's estimation, 380 billion euros worth of goods. This retaliation that they've just adopted will impact 20 billion euros worth of goods. So even in its amount, it can't be seen as really being a retaliation for last week. Will Washington view it that way? I think maybe by the end of today, we'll get a sense of that. All we're going on right now is a Truth Social post where Trump seems to be saying he's excluding everyone but China. But if the reasoning for that is that China was the only one that hit back with retaliatory tariffs, if Trump begins to think that these EU tariffs are retaliation for Liberation Day, maybe the EU doesn't end up getting off that list.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it all plays out. Dave, thank you so much for bringing us that update, and we'll of course be continuing to follow the situation in the EU in response